all the time. So for me, it was just to go into the interview not knowing what to expect, but be able to think on your feet and understand that all these questions have a purpose behind them. They don't just ask you these questions for no reason. So it's important to show genuine interest. So now we have Mitchell. He's going to show you how to prepare for an interview as an interviewer.
Okay, so here's how to prepare for an interview as an interviewer. So I'll start with saying how important it is to be prepared for an interview. This is a quote from Janice Whitaker, author of Interviewing by Example, and it pretty much says that most people cannot wing an interview off the top of their head. There are many costs that come with making a bad hire, things like wasted salary, severance payment, and training time. On top of that, there's all the expenses that are involved with finding another replacement for that person. So first thing you want to do is come up with a list of qualifications. These are basic things a candidate needs in order to be able to qualify for this position. Things like certifications, degrees, specific accomplishments, and good references. Next, you need to know what you're looking for. You need to think about who had previously held a position, think about what worked and didn't work with that previous employee, what kind of personality fits the position, and whether or not you want someone who's more detailed-oriented or like a big-picture kind of person. After that, you need to do your homework. You don't want to just glance over a resume. You want to have at least a small idea of who the person is so that you have an idea of different kind of questions to ask them. You can use social media for a quick check on sites like Facebook and LinkedIn to get a better idea of who exactly like this person is. So now for the actual interview. You want to prepare and set up your interview into 3 separate parts. You have the introduction, then you have the questions, and then the wrap-up. So part 1, the introduction. You want to have some small talk conversations prepared so that if you open up with small talk, it can kind of ease the candidate into the interview so that there's more of a natural conversation you're having rather than you kind of like interrogating them. The general small talk conversations like weather and like their commute to the interview are good to take off some of their nerves before you get into the bulk of the interview. And you want to end by explaining how the rest of the interview is going to work. So part 2, there's a few different kind of questions you can ask, and the first one is fact-based questions. They're pretty simple questions, just kind of to clarify information on the resume. Something like, how many years have you been working for a blank company? Then you have situational and hypothetical questions. With these, you want to put the candidate into a certain hypothetical situation to see how they react. Something like, what would you do if you saw a coworker stealing from the company? It gives you a good idea of how that worker would work in like a real-world situation. Next, we have behavioral questions. This is where it's important to know the candidate a little bit beforehand, because with a question like this, you want to come up with a situation that they might have encountered at a previous job and see how they reacted to that situation. And next, we have questions to not ask. Things like race, religion, weight, gender, children are all topics that you should not bring up during an interview. At the bottom, we have another quote that says, if you don't ask all candidates, it's probably some sort of discrimination. Next we have part 3, the wrap-up. In this part, you want to give the candidate an opportunity to ask any questions that they have. This is important because it really shows what the candidate is thinking, and this part of the interview can lead to whole other conversations based off of what they are saying. So then you have the follow-up where you want to show them how, when, and if they will be contacted. You want to thank them for their time, be the first to stand up. You want to shake their hands and then walk them out into the lobby. So now we have new and new. It was kind of harder for me to relate to this topic because I've never given an interview before, but through my research and everything, I found something pretty interesting looking back on interviews that I have had. I realized that most of the interviews I've had have followed this pattern of an introduction that starts with some small talk followed by questions, usually different variety of questions, and then the wrap-up where they ask my opinion and then follow up. So I feel like that was pretty important, understanding this process to interview, and I think this can help me on my next interviews because knowing how an interview is going to work from the interviewer's perspective can help you see what kind of questions and topics might be coming on next. So in summary, it is really important to be prepared for an interview. You don't want to go into it blind. You want to have a set of guidelines and processes that can help you avoid the mistake of making a bad hire. And here's Dylan Kennedy with closing the interview.
start. Closing interview, I'm going to talk about basically the interview process, the pre-interview, post-interview, the proper documents needed to bring with you to an interview, and then new and you, I have a story about my interview process, maybe not be so positive, but step one is to identify a vacancy of a company and evaluate its needs. You want to know why if it's a newly created position or if it's a replacement, so proper planning will lead to hiring the right person for the role and team. Step two, you want to develop the position description, identify duties and responsibilities such as general information like the department name, the department head, supervisor name. Minimal requirements will vary based on applicants. Step three, you want to develop an interview plan. So the posting period, some placement goals. It's always good to develop a recruitment plan before an interview because it gives an interview the requirements needed to fill the position. Step four, the company's going to select a search committee. So this is very important. It's to ensure applicants selected for the interview and final selection are evaluated by more than one individual to minimize the potential for personal bias. Step five, post position. You're going to post a position. Applicants can be viewed once the minimum posting days have been reached. Talent and outsourcing. It's usually done through social media and networking channels, and you're going to want to monitor and update the interview plan. That's crucial to success. Step six, review applicants and develop a short list. All applicants must be viewed and considered during the process, so they'll do phone screenings usually to obtain availability of applicants, and then they're going to conduct the interview. The committee is going to first want to prepare for the interviewer, determine what kind of questions they're going to ask, the format of the interview questions, who is going to ask what questions, and the interview can be in front of a panel or virtual to save the company's money for travel costs. And welcoming the interviewee, they're going to try to avoid any type of inappropriate or illegal interview questions. They're going to know your resume, so they're going to know what your strong suits are in your background. And then what should you do after the interview? You should thank the interviewer for their time, follow up with an email, ask any additional questions thought of after the interview, maybe a phone call as well, and also just be generally grateful for the opportunity they gave you. Next is the select hire, so they're going to find a final applicant. It's the best candidate for the position. It was based on all their qualifications. They can do reference checks. This is important to obtain information about candidates' behavior, work performance from other prior employers. And then finally, finalize the interview process. They're going to initiate the offer. You guys may want to negotiate based on the offer, and then they're going to finalize the offer, and it is important that each interview process is properly closed. And what you recommended to bring with you to an interview is copies of your resume, your reference list, recommendation letters, driver's license, social security card, passport, fact sheet, pen and paper to take notes, and portfolio of your work. So new and you, I applied for an internship for Barkthins. It was established in 2013. They're non-GMO certified, and they're a snacking chocolate. So first I started off, I had a phone interview with this woman, Nicole. She basically wanted to know why I was interested in the job, why I wanted to work there, and asked a lot about me, which is typical because they'll usually have 80% you talking and 20% them talking. And next I had a panel interview. Again, I started with Nicole, then I met with the head of the marketing department, head of the financial department, and then I also sat with the CEO of the company and had an interview with him, which was nice. And with the company decision, so after I left, shook everybody's hands, I emailed them, just say thank you for the opportunity and just letting me know when they were going to get back to me. But unfortunately, they already filled the position. So after, again, I sent them an email thanking them for the opportunity, and it was actually a great learning experience for me. So I really appreciate it, and the email just to show them that I really appreciated what they did and asked them if they had any other opportunities later on. So the overview of everything that we went over today, Jonathan covered company guidelines and company needs. Melanie covered types of interviews. Anthony had types of interview questions. Mitchell, we're preparing for an interview as an interviewer, and I had the closing.